history to ensure that the mistakes of the past don't repeat themselves and we create a better world for us and our children and our grandchildren. In a world gone mad, what are they trying to achieve? Like keeping on to their faith. You must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormented, never the tormented. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. No human race is superior, no religious faith is inferior. All collective judgments are wrong and only racists make. I hope that at the end of today you will look back and perhaps on the most life-changing journeys you'll ever take. It's extremely important that you're with us today. I thank you for joining us. I look forward to speaking to you at the rest of the day, different times, and thank you again for joining us today. Thank you.
Learning from Auschwitz is a project organised by the Holocaust Educational Trust intended to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust and allow new generations to learn from it and keep the memory alive. To fully understand the Holocaust and to fully understand the victims of the Holocaust, it's not enough to just learn statistics, which are thrown around all the time, and not enough to even study in school or see pictures. I think especially the visit to Auschwitz and the wonderful talk by Miss Vedder.
I am Janine Weber. I was born in eastern Poland.
And there were over 150,000 Jews who lived there. Unfortunately, most of them perished, murdered or died of starvation or disease. And I am one of the very few who managed to survive. You know, in Poland, 3 million Jews perished during the war. Over 90% of the Jewish population disappeared. My parents were very concerned about something, and I asked my mother, what is going on? And she said, the Russians are sending to Siberia people. 50% of people who were sent to Siberia survived the cold weather. But my parents didn't survive the German occupation.
Everyone is capable of prejudice and capable of hate, and as much as, of course, we didn't initiate the Holocaust, we need to remember that these were people that committed horrible crimes, not monsters, and anyone is capable of this. We need to remember that hatred is something that has existed in society long before the Holocaust and still exists to this day, and as a new generation we should strive to fight against this hate and make sure that we learn from history and do not repeat it, because we have seen it has been repeated. I mean, we've seen Serbia. What's happening now in Burma is the same thing that's been happening in Germany during the Holocaust, and it's frightening to see that we haven't learned from history. So I think this Learning from Auschwitz project taught us very well that we need to not separate ourselves from either the perpetrators or the victims, that these are all individuals, and that if we focus on the individual rather than statistics and numbers and cheap phrases that mean nothing, then we'll fully understand the Holocaust and then we will not repeat history. But if we refuse to do that, then we're doomed to repeat everything the same.
Hello everybody, my name is Jake Evans, and 2 weeks ago 4 of us from our school went to Auschwitz with Learning for Auschwitz to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and as we anticipated Auschwitz-Birkenau, it was a really horrifying and profound experience. These concentration camps really do capture another era of remembrance, and one that must not be forgotten. I found the entire Auschwitz experience very uncomfortable. Walking into Auschwitz, entering through the gates, I felt a chill breeze going down my spine. As you enter those gates, you really take a moment and try to reflect on what happened, all those years ago. I saw the destruction of the cell blocks in Birkenau, and just the sheer size of the place was unbelievable. It was about a kilometre walk from one side to the other, about 2 kilometres wide. It was absolutely huge. I saw the piles of shoes, and among the pile of rotten old Jewish shoes, something caught my eye. It was a red shoe. It shone through like a beacon of hope, and it just really hit me. It reminded me of these shoes were very small. They were worn by a girl who was ready to depart to Auschwitz, ready to look for a better life. They were promised, Jewish children, Jewish females, Jewish males, they were all promised a better life. They were promised that everything would be fine, they could leave their homes, and the poor, everybody could get a better life. But this, only for her, if you think about it, only for that wee girl in her shoes, only for her to be brutally murdered, cut down, starved by monsters that were Nazis. These events didn't just happen to this girl, they happened to millions. And it continues today. Persecution because of religion, persecution because of skin colour, persecution happens now in Syria, it happens all over the world. The thing that really hit me most in Auschwitz was I saw the ash carts where the Nazi soldiers would take and dump the Jewish people's ashes into the lake. I could only respond with questions. How did this happen? How were 1.1 million Jews murdered in Auschwitz? Where was everybody else? And to be honest, I left Auschwitz with more questions than answers. When something so tragic, so profound, so enormous happens, the world must talk. We must remember, we must learn. And we had to listen to a rabbi talk about his ceremony, and he told an anecdote. He told how the lanes, the train tracks in Birkenau, how the person allowing the train tracks, it was their job to allow it to happen. It was the soldiers, their job to beat, to starve, to kill the Jews. It was their job to take the ash and dump it into the lake.
From Auschwitz, I think it was one of the most heartbreaking but amazing experiences I think I've ever had. It's hard to even explain what you go through when you're there. There's so many different emotions and just things to learn from it. It was surreal almost going around the place and realising it was actually a real thing that happened, and thinking about that kind of discrimination that was around and how that's still even a thing today. It's like it was always there, but I didn't think about it in the same depth. Like I had a front row seat to it, I was blindfolded to it all. Like I think about, even in our own country, how we treat each other based off religion. It's just, it terrifies me. Thinking how we haven't learnt it all, have we, from the past and history. I think we can make a much better future for ourselves in terms of discrimination. Like, there are survivors from the Holocaust that are still alive today, and the fact that they have to live in a world where they still see anti-Semitism alive is just awful.
I think it's an experience that I can't really describe exactly. I mean, if you asked me that question about any other museum, it'd be pretty easy to say interesting or some other adjective, but the experiences from Auschwitz were a lot different, very different from what I expected. I learned a lot more from it than I thought I would, particularly my perspective and just everyone's perspective realistically, and how it should be changed on the Holocaust regarding what we learn, because it's all well and good to realize statistics and shocking things like 6 million dead, 21 million dead, but the true horror of the Holocaust comes from just a focus on the one individual.
I think within the Holocaust, even the concentration camps, another thing that we talked about a lot within the Auschwitz committee was the other groups that were affected by it that are just sort of ignored almost. Like obviously Jews were hurt immensely by it, but there's like even gays and disabled that were killed and we just don't talk about it. Like today that's still a big issue, and I feel like if we even highlight that or pay more attention to it, we can really fight against that kind of harm we do to people.
Do I want to remember the peaceful ghetto before the raid? Children shaking like leaves in the wind. Mothers searching for a piece of bread. Shadows on swollen legs, moving with fear. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget? Do I want to remember the creation of hell? Shouts of the raiders enjoying the hunt. Cries of the wounded begging for life. Faces of mothers carved with pain. Hiding children dripping with fear. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget? Do I want to remember my fearful return? Families vanished in the midst of the day, the mass graves steaming with vapour of blood. Mothers searching for children in vain, the pain of the ghetto cuts like a knife. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget? Do I want to remember the wailing of the night? The doors kicked ajar, ripped feathers floating the air, the night scented with snow melting blood, while the compassionate moon is showing the way. For the faceless shadows searching for kin. No, I don't want to remember, but I cannot forget. Do I want to remember this world upside down, where the departed are blessed with an instant death, while the living condemned to a short wretched life, and a long tortuous journey to an unnamed place, converting living souls into ashes and gas? No, I have to remember and never let you forget.
Really, there has to be questions like, where was everybody else? Why did this happen? And for me, I think it's just a great reflection. And my challenge for you all sitting there watching this, is to think about what you're going to say, to reflect on the past, and we have to look forward to the future and stop everything bad that happens.
Of my message to the society, not to fear minorities, not to fear people who maybe have a different religion, a different color of the skin, or traditions which are slightly different, but to accept them, to understand them, to be tolerant towards them. That's my message.